The Epstein Files Transparency Act is officially U.S. law. It's passed the House, the Senate, and Donald Trump today just announced on Truth Social that he signed it into law. Now, is any actual incriminating information going to get released to the public? That's a whole different story, and let's get into that in a second here. First, I just want to skim through this very long-winded Truth Social post that Donald Trump wrote, of course, shifting the focus to Democrats. Jeffrey Epstein, who was charged by the Trump Justice Department, didn't know, in 2019, not the Democrats, was a lifelong Democrat, donated thousands of dollars to Democratic politicians, was deeply associated with many well-known Democratic figures, such as Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, sleazebag political activist Reid Hoffman, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, on and on and on. I have just signed the bill to release the Epstein files. As everyone knows, I asked the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, to pass this bill in the House and Senate, respectively. Because of this request, the votes were almost unanimously in favor of the passage. At my direction, the Department of Justice has already turned over close to 50,000 pages of documents to Congress, yada, 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 yada. I'm going to go all the way to the end. Basically, talking about how Democrats do all these things. The latest hoax will backfire on the Democrats just as all of the rest of them have. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. So nothing really new there. Kind of just expected a long-winded answer. Here's the thing, though. Is it going to actually release any incriminating evidence? Well, the what seems to be the case is that that's not going to happen because Trump people are already starting to talk about it. I've mentioned it previously in the other videos. Is that he's used this loophole with the Department of Justice where he stated on Truth Social a few days ago that he's reopening the Jeffrey Epstein investigation to look into Democrats that were associated with Jeffrey Epstein, such as Bill Clinton and Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, a few of the ones that he listed in this current Truth Social post. And by doing that, creating an active investigation, what you're doing is you're not allowing the release of the files that might influence a pending or active investigation. The Trump administration knew that. Thomas Massie, who spearheaded this legislation with Ro Khanna, also knew that was something that the Trump administration could do, which is why Thomas Massie also went on X today and tweeted how they added a clause into the legislation that makes sure that it's temporary. Any sort of pausing on the release of the files for certain redactions are only temporary for active investigations, but it didn't seem too specific enough to be like you can't just extend this out for 4 years. The word temporary doesn't feel that rigid. So I really don't see the Trump administration extending, not being willing to extend the release of the files for as long as they want. Anyways, let's go ahead and read. This is what Thomas Massie just said. Now, AG Pam Bondi has 30 days to release these files. And of course, he highlights 30 days because he really wants to make sure that they know. Benny Johnson, President Trump confirms he has officially signed the files. All of the files will be released. The White House, everybody just saying the same thing over and over. A short message from my office. Let's see what Thomas Massie has to say about this. Let me go ahead and play this.
With a 427 to 1 solution. Well, today's a great day. Yesterday, we passed the Epstein resolution to release the files with a 427 to 1 majority. This comes after 5 months of battling the Speaker and, frankly, the President, the FBI Director, the Attorney General, the Vice President. They were all working against something they had initially been for. But what we accomplished was we got the People's House to work. Even though the Speaker of the House didn't want to do the people's will, we used something called a discharge petition. And it even surprised me when we got to the finish line how quickly things happened. Once it passed in the House, the Speaker of the House urged the Senate to modify the bill. He didn't like it, but he had lost control of the House here, and we got the bill passed exactly as Ro Khanna and I wrote it. But before it even went to the Senate, They agreed by unanimous consent to pass the bill before they even received it. I've never seen the Senate move this fast. They didn't change a word of it or any punctuation.
Just stop right there. And he basically just goes on and talks about, let me just get to the end and see if there's anything.
Investigations to keep us from getting the files that.
That's what I wanted to share. So let me just go back 10 seconds into that.
There are 1,000 victims of Epstein's sex trafficking ring. There are dozens of perpetrators. There's no way he can open enough investigations to keep us from getting the files that will implicate most of these men. So I think we're going to see justice. I'm excited. If there's any hope, you've seen it here today and yesterday here in the House of Representatives that we can actually get a bill passed if the people want it bad enough. Thank you.
You know what? I really like the guy, honestly. I think he's like one of the very few lights in Congress. Also notice that he has that little badge on. That's actually, it's an electronic not timer, but it's a monitor. It tracks the national debt. So that's the live national debt tracker is on his badge right there, and it's changing and increasing as the numbers going up. He's like, I think, the only congressman that does that, just to keep the pressure on the fact that our national debt is like 38 trillion now. Anyways, glad that he did mention that. We'll see. I think that the idea of Trump just being so willing to just go ahead and, completely flip after attacking this guy, attacking this guy's wife, attacking Marjorie Taylor Greene, somebody who he's been friends with for years, who endorsed his campaign for years, attacking them both, and then all of a sudden overnight, never mind, we're just going to go ahead and release them. It's completely okay. To me, it feels fishy. So that's really what I have to say to that. I also think it just doesn't feel like it's something. Let's see what Donald Trump Jr. had to say. It's clear from all the emails that Jeffrey Epstein hated Trump so much so that he was literally live texting Democrats on how to impeach him. If he had anything on Trump, he would have used it. But why was a convicted pedophile still in direct comms with Dems? Donald Trump Jr. Dude, it's so. I'm kind of over the left versus right thing. I've been over the left versus right thing for a long time, but now it's really reached a point where it just feels very establishment. It feels very like the establishment is just pushing on you, like it's left versus right, and the Democrats hate the Republicans and whatever, when I really feel like that's just simply not the case. Now, are there very real and serious partisan divides on a lot of issues? Absolutely. But something like the Jeffrey Epstein files is not a partisan. It's not a partisan issue. Both the Democrats and the Republicans were implicated because ultimately it implicated elite figures. That's just matter of fact. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't like, I'm going to go search for all of the rich Democrats and I'm going to blackmail them for the Israeli Mossad. That's what I'm going to do. No, they went around and searched for everybody. You think they gave a damn whether it was a Democrat or a Republican? It's so anybody who's pushing that, especially podcasters that aren't even in politics. Freaking Benny Johnson, for example, this guy's going in here. I just saw him earlier on X or Twitter or whatever and saying, oh, it's going to backfire on the Dems. The Dems, dude, it's implicating both sides. Can you just get off your high horse for a second and stop just, sucking establishment chode, please? So that's really what I wanted to say for that, guys. If you found this video interesting, excuse my language there, by the way. If you found this video interesting, please go ahead and click the subscribe button below. I would appreciate it. And shoot this video a thumbs up as well. And otherwise, I will see you